Hello, everybody. I've read enough of this, and I know you're not about to believe what I'm going to say, but it has made sense. It's not true. And the only reason why it made sense, I bet you thought I was going to say that I turned into a Christian, didn't you? Oh boy, never. This proves why I shouldn't be a Christian. I got another story. Tell me another story. Okay, let me make sure. All right, this is the one where I said Aaron was killed by God. It says in it was in Numbers. I'm sorry I said Exodus or Leviticus, but it was in Numbers in chapter 20. Uh let's just start with verse 20, 22. Chapter 20, 22. Now the children of Israel, the whole congregation, journeyed from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in Mount Hor by the border of the land of Edom, saying, Aaron shall be gathered to his people, for he shall not enter the land which I have given to the children of Israel, which is the land of milk and honey, because you rebelled against my word at the water of Meribah. Take Aaron and Eleazar his son, and bring them up to Mount Hor, and strip Aaron of his garments, and put them on Eleazar his son, for Aaron shall be gathered to his people, and die there. So Moses did just as the Lord commanded. And they went up to Mount Hor in the sight of all the congregation, and Moses stripped Aaron in front of his son, and killed Aaron in front of his son, and not only killed him and stripped him in front of his son, but gave him, sorry about that, but gave him the garments of Aaron to put them on. Moses doing this. And you think your way of Christianity is just so holy. Did you know Aaron was the guy? I'm just going to go ahead and touch back up on this, but Aaron is the guy that went with Moses to free the the Hebrew slaves, the Israelites. Aaron was Moses's mouthpiece because Moses wasn't a good talker, and Aaron also was the one who threw the staff down and everything like that, all the plagues. Aaron was the magical guy and the mouthpiece. Uh, and knowing all that, how do you know God won't strike you down? Have you been believing right? You don't know. The Bible also says, your thoughts are not my thoughts. Yep, that's what God says. I'm pretty sure everybody's heard about that. Everything is in God's will. I seen a hat the other day. Said on the back of it, it says, be calm. God is in control. According to the Bible, he is, because he'll murder you and kill a whole bunch of people with a flood and all this other shit. He will kill them because they don't believe in him. And just because you're a Christian, it also says in Matthew chapter 7, where it says, and in the end times, that shall say, Lord, did I not prophesy in your name and cast out devils in your name and did all these good things in your name? And he'll say, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I've never known you. How do you know your version of Christianity is right? Because there's so many out there. So many people are quick to tell you, oh, no, 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 no. Be careful. That could have been Satan. But you know what happens right there is? Anybody who considers him like that, that thought is quickly banished from his mind. He's like, oh no, I'm right. And there's other people who think I'm right. And do. Especially a pastor. A lot of people say, oh, I don't like that pastor over there. He don't preach right. He must not know the Bible. uh, it seems like he knows it a lot better than them. From some of the things I've seen, they don't even know a verse in the Bible except what their pastor has told them. They've never read the Bible. They don't know what it says, but they're willing to act like they do, and so they think they're following Christ right. They'll have their own prayer system and everything set up to where they can follow Christ that way. Which the reason why I'm saying Christ is because Christ is God. It's like out of John, like I said before, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word. That's in chapter 1 of the Gospel of John, verse 1. And then it goes all the way down to verse 14 where it says, and then the Word became flesh. Now listen, then the Word. What did First John chapter 1, verse 1 say? Okay, that's God. All right. Became flesh and made his dwelling among us. So that's Jesus. That's God. Jesus is God. You see, God still is, still was, and always will be, according to the Christians. He'll never change. He's perfect. He can't change. When in actuality, he did. He turned himself into a human. That was how Jesus was able to perform all those miracles. He even gave a hint to one guy. He goes, why do you call me good? For there's only one that's good, and that's my Father up in heaven. But the thing is he lied to that guy. His Father wasn't up in heaven. He was in him. Omnipresent. You want to say that? I guess I'll give you that. Go ahead and give you that. God was in heaven too, but see, there's a thing there though. Even though God's up in heaven, he can still show himself down here. Why hasn't he done it amongst this? I mean, where is his works? I mean, everybody's saying the revelation is happening. The things that I read don't seem to be happening. You know, that's funny. Not only does God kill kids, but he kills in front of kids. How moral is this God? Killing in front of a kid. His own son. Yeah, Aaron. Let's do what I'm talking about. Aaron and his son. Aaron having to die in front of him. Wow. See, I don't. That's another reason why I don't believe in Christianity, is because of all the interpretations it's got. A lot of them haven't even read the Bible. I probably know more than more preachers do. Most preachers. I can't say all, but I know the things to look for, so I can automatically pull them up if I have to in a situation, and it'll read it for me. Now I can read out what it's saying on the screen, just so he knows what I'm talking about. But he'll probably already know what I'm talking about. But I'll have to look it up because I'm one of them ones that I didn't remember every chapter and verse, but I know it's in there. Yeah, but if you look on the internet, Google it, it'll bring up the chapter and verse book. Whoops. Sorry about that. My coffee cup. Got this big ring on. Yeah, sometimes it'll tap it. Nah, I gotta move it. But anyways, yeah. Actually, I have another one for you. Let me go ahead and just get this one out of the way. I'll put two in one. Okay, Hosea, the book of Hosea. Now, before I read you this story, I'm going to read to you out of the Revelation chapter 20, verse 8. But the cowardly, unbelieving, abominable, murderers, sexually immoral. Sexually immoral. Remember that. The sexually immoral. When the Lord began to, this is in Hosea chapter 1, verse 2. When the Lord began to speak by Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, go take yourself a white, sorry, I can't believe this book even talks about this. Go take yourself a wife of harlotry. Harlots. Harlotry. Harlots. They're the same thing. The sexually immoral. God doesn't like, God does not like harlots. Yeah, sexually immoral. What God expects out of a relationship is for them to become one, which the King James calls twain. It's something like that. I haven't read the part in a long time, but it means for them to become one. That's what the Bible wants. Just them. If a woman is caught cheating on her husband, she shall be stoned to death. That's another thing God said. Okay, so God has it set up to where women become the harlot, knowing that they can't make it to heaven. Uh, what's going on here? I mean, is this God confused all of a sudden? Is he not? Is he not aware of what he's doing? This person's a harlot. What if she dies? What if she was to die? And just him saying, take yourself a wife of harlotry, that means that it's okay she's a prostitute. It's showing her it's okay. I'll still love you. And yes, I am a man of God. God speaks to me. Because he did. He spoke to Hosea to tell him to take a wife of harlotry, something he doesn't definitely agree with. See, this is where a lot of Christians start to run away. I'm going to tell you what happens when stories like these happen. They run away because they can see the logic standing right there, but they believe in their religion so strong, they'll always be blinded by it. They will never follow into it. They'll never ever try to discuss fully with you because they can't. And they know they can't. They run like cowards. And doesn't that what that say? In Revelations chapter 20, let's see, let me read it again. Yeah, the cowardly shall not make it into heaven. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's crazy. Why does it say that? Yeah. I mean, they like to run. That's cowardly. You know what I did? When I was at 5 years as a Christian, I was definitely committed to it. You know what happened when I figured out that Christianity wasn't really the way? I was a little bit irritated. Yeah. I mean, come on, this whole time I was believing this God existed that uh was supposed to help me and all this other shit. And all of a sudden figured out that after 5 years that all that shit wasn't real. He wasn't real. God was never real. I was believing in this. I gave my time to this. I devoted myself to this. I was even thinking about when I was bull riding when I was a Christian cowboy. I was going to try to save up enough money to make my own cowboy church and be the pastor of it. I told God in a prayer that if He let me win the bull riding and I would get the money, I would build a church and be a pastor of it. Yeah. Yeah, man. God goes, see, this is how he's not a good God or a real God at all. If he does things that he's totally against, that is not a God. A God doesn't do things he's against. I'm just here to tell you that. A God is a thing considered perfect. The only God that you really have is just yourself. You could worship yourself. You could rejoice in the delights of the flesh. Or you can be a Christian and live a life of blind devotion, blind direction, blind interpretation. Or if you don't want to live the Christian route, ask yourself these questions. How can I tell if this God is real? Go to your most trusted pastor if you have one, or if it's just your own knowledge. I'll tell you, that's what happened to me was my own knowledge. I didn't go up to a pastor and ask about things. I asked my dad one time what Isaiah 45 verse 7 said, but that was the only time. I mean, I wanted just to see right there if he's seen the same thing that I seen in that verse. But he couldn't say it. He didn't want to say it. So he told me there's things in the Bible we won't understand. He understood it. It only says one thing. And it makes it definitely clear of what that one thing is. It describes, names them both, evil and good, that he creates. Come on, can't you see? Open your eyes, man. Why are you holding on to a God that isn't real? It's just make believe. Come on, man, your mind can do plenty of things. Your mind can hallucinate if it wants to. I've hallucinated. One time, I'll tell you, I was so drunk off of alcohol. I was in a hospital, but everything looked black and white. I thought I was kidnapped and put in this tub, and this lady was trying to force this thing down my throat. She goes, Roger, we got to do this so you'll live. I'm like, oh shit, I was kidnapped. And so I seen the doctor, stand there while I was laying on the bed. I kicked my leg up, kicked him in the head, and he just shook his head and looked at me and walked off. I thought that I was still kidnapped and he was fixing to kill me, and then I passed out. I remember that. That wasn't a glimpse from hell. That was just me in real life not being able to function that well. My mind playing tricks on me. That's all that was. It looked like a real situation to me that I was thinking about, but it wasn't. Why? My mind was hallucinating, believing false evidence. It wasn't what I thought it was because it was a real life situation. See, your mind, like they got these people who talk about these books that they've seen hell and they went to heaven, talked to God, seen all these things in hell. Those are just people trying to make $1 off of you. Don't believe that stuff and buy their books and listen to their bullshit. Yeah, there's no way. I don't know. But I guess in the end, you're probably going to believe what you believe. The Christians, anyway. I should say that. Yeah, the Christians are going to believe what they want to believe. They're going to think that the devil is using my mouth to lie to you and my brain and all this other stuff that just doesn't make any sense. Because when they say that, you see, I don't feel a thing. I only talk to you out of my own free will. I do this for people, like I said, destructing from Christianity. Uh, I even have my story from my video on deconstructing from Christianity to Satanism. And for sober people too, to get more people sober, because like I said, they can do it themselves. It's all themselves. That's all it is. It'll never be anything else. How you live your life is because that's you wanting to live your life like that, not some God's plan. That's you. If God was all so benign and just incredible and nothing can go wrong, if he's real, you would see why you shouldn't. God would show you. In a way, though, to where if other people were wanting to know God, God would show his way to them too. Those would have been his most precious, because I remember when the disciples asked Jesus who would be the first into the kingdom of heaven. They said, "You see one of those children? Hand one to me. To enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to be like a child." That's what the people who really need God are like the children. And why isn't, and if he says he attends his sheep because he is the herder, why isn't he attending to us? The wolves are eating us alive. The ones who don't believe that there's this Jesus like me, or this God, or whatever. Yeah, I'm telling you that if you're experiencing anything, it's hallucination. Or euphoria, like they say at church. Oh, I got filled with so much energy. No, you were just really, your anxiety was probably kind of up. You got excited in the music and started dancing. Or like I did, I remember when I was 9 years old, I'd run around the church pews when they would play their Pentecostal music. I would run and wouldn't stop until the music was over. Yeah, that was just my anxiety. It was a little bit up because of the way the church site looked in the congregation. Everybody was all talking and laughing and shaking hands before the church was about to get underway. And my mind got on that. I was like, oh yeah, I want to be like that too. And oh man, I think I need to run. Oh man, this music's great. Oh yeah, see, that's what I was doing. See what it's doing? It escalates. Okay, you hear one thing, it goes on to another. It's more exciting. Oh wow, I'm gonna get excited. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. That's what happens. It's just you, nothing else. I know that's kind of hard to believe, but you know, for Christians anyway, they want to still say no, it was the Holy Spirit. Well, for the ones of us that don't believe that shit, man, we get we level up. The Christian stays level down. The Satanist, especially, will be always mightier than the Christian. You know, out of the book of Satan 5 of this ninth statement says, "Blessed are those who believe in what is good for them, for their minds will never be terrorized. But cursed are the lambs of God, for they'll be bled whiter than snow." You sure right to be bled whiter than snow. Look at all the things they deprive themselves from when they committed sin. Oh, Father, please help me. Yeah, it's like, and then the Catholics, they have it to where I forgot what it's called, but you can go in and you confess your sins alone. I think it's with a pastor. I could be wrong, but it's somebody out of their church. I know that they confess their sins to, and they get forgiven. I wonder how some of that child molestation happened within the churches like that, from the pastors to the kids, because he gets to hearing about dark confessions and wonders if that person's really like that. And no, he might get turned sexually on. So he gets to be alone more and closer reach of the person, so he can fulfill his desires of his sick, twisted mind. I bet a lot of adultery has happened within those type of things. One figures out one likes to cheat on their spouse or mate. Well, let's say mate, their mate. That they keep talking about it. The pastor one day goes, "Hey, I've been thinking about you," and tries to seduce her. How do you know that ain't happened? It's happened with kids. It's definitely happened with adults. You can bet that. That just doesn't get talked about. When two adults have sex together and they agree, they can't get in trouble. But now, if it's kids, yes, you can get in trouble. And when you're in prison, you should have the most worst, terrible form. I don't even think there's words to explain by it, but ass whooping, and should be killed to death if you are a child molester. Yeah, that's the way I believe. I'm not saying I'm going to do it to somebody who's a child molester, but I'm just stating what I think. And that's all to ever be. So don't worry, I'm not coming after you. If you're watching this video of mine and you just heard what I said, I'm not going to come after you, but I'll go back just all these things that, especially a preacher is supposed to be a man of God. Uh, why is he molesting kids and doing stuff like that? I bet that's happened back in the earlier days of Christianity too. They were having sex as teenagers and having kids and other kids with kids and becoming kings as kids to have queen that are kids. And dude, if that's not sick, I don't know what else is. I mean, take a look at this too, about how they say devil worshippers sacrifice. See, the devil worshippers that I've read about, I haven't heard of them sacrificing any people or kids, or I've heard of animals like in the Holy Bible. Yeah, for the atonement of their sins, the forgiving. They had to kill birds, goats, sheep, bulls. Yes, bulls. I'd like to, after being a bull rider, I'd like to see how they sacrificed a bull. I would have loved to just see how they could have accomplished that, because they wouldn't have. No. Dude, I'm going to tell you something about a bull. They're very territorial, and they don't like to be fucked with, especially by human beings. Yeah, they don't really care about other animals like birds and stuff like that, or a dog that I've ever seen, but human beings, it doesn't like human beings for some reason. So how are they supposed to get that bull up there and kill it? And then not only did they Moses and his people kill all these animals, they also sprinkled the blood of them. It says so. And knowing that, that's just crazy, man. No wonder where people come up with these devil worshippers and witches and stuff like that, sacrificing people. I mean, I'm not going to say it isn't happening. There's probably something crazy going on. Those people probably need some help. Somebody should probably reach out to them. Uh, but just to come up with it, like I have the Compendium Maleficarum, and it talks about witches and talks about what those witches did. and that they would burn them to the stake for it. Some of them witches weren't witches at all. Yeah, some of them were just innocent people who were hysterical, didn't conform in society very well, or just weren't part of the Christian church. Yeah. So I'm glad that, this country isn't founded on God. And how you know it's not founded on God, not only is it not in the Treaty of Tripoli, but it's also, we don't get stoned to death, burnt to the stake, anything like that. Because burnt to the stake was the most recent. Because that's what they started to do with heretics and witches and warlocks and wizards and stuff like that. But society has found it to where this God doesn't even show himself. I bet they have atheistic views. And some of them are probably religious, but not really. Because yeah, they just figured out that, if this God isn't real, why should we continue to carry out his plan? That's probably something that happened, something that got talked about. You never know. But you can tell this country isn't founded on God. And also, how I know it isn't, because how come they just don't have the Ten Commandments as the law of the land? Why do they have all these other laws that are man-made? Just like the Ten Commandments was man-made. Yep. Man wrote that Bible. Even though it says in 2 Timothy 3:16 that God talked to them, he didn't. And if they were believing that, they needed some psychotic medication. You know, some people got to take it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's human science, it's human made, and it works. How do I know it works? I take it. I don't have panic attacks anymore. And when I feel like I'm about to have one, I can slow myself down. Like my video games that I play, they make my heart beat crazy because I'm so into them because I love them. And even though I get mad at them and say things to them, I still love them anyway. And my heart will get to beating in certain situations like the fights and stuff, like on bosses and shit like that. Or unless a bunch of people run up on me, yeah, my heart gets to beating and I got to slow that down at the end of it. Yeah, and I can because I take the medication that helps me do that. But other than that, we've also been able to prove about the world's existence and how old the world really is, and that's all man-made. Yeah, there was even scientists that found it that Noah's flood couldn't happen. The flooding of the earth in Noah's Ark. Yeah, none of that ever happened. There's no way it could have. And you can look into that. It's on Google too. You can Google it. They'll tell you. And look at scientific studies on it too. Yeah, it'll bring you to show you that flood never happened. Yeah, and what was it, the Red Sea? I heard about the Red Sea one time from a guy. He says that place isn't even a sea. Yeah, that one where God split for Moses and Aaron and all of them to get away from Pharaoh and them when the Pharaoh was coming after him. Can you see? God really hated Pharaoh. He hardened Pharaoh's heart again. What if he quit hardening Pharaoh's heart and Pharaoh turned into a Christian? Why did he have to keep hardening Pharaoh's heart? Wow. What did Pharaoh really do to piss God off? Why couldn't God came upon Pharaoh and be like, hey Pharaoh, I don't mind you working the Israelites as long as you pay them and you give them houses and you give them good food. That's what I would have did. Instead of making his chosen people become slaves. Read Exodus 21 and tell you all about Hebrew slaves too. I guess they couldn't get enough if they'd been in slavery in Egypt. So they turned them into Hebrew slaves too. Hebrews owning other Hebrews. Yeah. Slavery. And that's your God saying this is okay? Exodus 21, it tells you what to do with your slaves. Yeah, it tells you what you can do with your slaves too and what you can't. But you can still own them as property. Would you like to be owned as property? What if this country was founded on your Jehovah and all of a sudden slavery came back in? Would you feel okay with that? I don't think I would. Even if I was still a Christian, I wouldn't like that. But it's God saying it's okay. That's the problem. Because slavery isn't okay. Uh Starting to run out of things to say. I gave you three things. Well, two and a half things. I don't want to make this video any longer than what it is, so uh I'll come up with something, and I hope y'all like my deconstruction story. All right, man. Y'all hail Satan and hail yourselves because you goddamn well deserve it. You better believe it.